Alright, it's Wednesday night, which could only mean one thing, Q&A time, so let's kick it off. We're going to open up first from Clarson440. He has 3 questions. First up, what are some of your favorite songs from Pantera? Now, since that last question when you asked me my favorite album, I went to look back and I looked back at the albums, and the 2 albums, Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display of Power, those are both fantastic albums, and I pretty much like all the songs on those albums. I have pretty much all of them. Some of my favorites would be Walk, This Love, Cowboys from Hell, fucking Hostile. My favorite song from Pantera is Cemetery Gates. I just fucking love that song. But yeah, those 2 albums, pretty much all those songs are fucking gold. So there you go. Next question. If people would no longer give John Cena any reactions, including his fans, then do you think WWE would stop shoving John Cena down our throats? Well, they'd have no other choice. I mean, if the guy is just getting an absolutely dead reaction every time he comes out, then they would have no choice but to push somebody else. But that's never going to happen because he's always going to get a reaction one way or another, whether it's everybody booing him or everybody cheering him. So, yeah, the only way for them not to push him is if it was just fucking dead silence. You could hear fucking crickets chirping every time he came out. And the last question from Clausen440. When you were a little kid, how excited were you before Raw or SmackDown came on during the Attitude Era? Oh man, when I was a little kid, my whole fucking life was wrestling. I mean, I used to get the WWF magazine, play all the fucking games. Me and my friends would go crazy for that shit. I mean, I remember when it would be 11 o'clock. Because I don't remember if it went to 11:05 back in the day. I don't think so. When it hit 11 o'clock, and La Femme Nikita came on after Raw, if you remember that shit. If you remember La Femme Nikita going on after Raw, or Walker Texas Ranger, then you're an old school fan. But yeah, that shit would go on. I'd be like, oh my god, I have to wait 7 fucking days for this. And every single day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'd be counting down. It was like an event. Every time Raw was coming on, all your friends would get together. You'd all get fucking hyped up. And then the fucking siren would go off at 9 o'clock, and the whole fucking intro video with Thorn in Your Eye. And it was just something amazing, man. It was something you had to see each and every week. So excited. And the day after, all you did at lunchtime was talk about it with your friends. Definitely not like that anymore. Thanks for those questions. Next is from EasyDose420. The past few weeks, I've been watching old Attitude Era episodes of Raw and SmackDown from 2000. So my question is, after almost a decade of the Phenom, what was your initial reaction to seeing Undertaker return as the American Badass? My initial reaction was, Jesus Christ, this shit is getting fucking retarded. I started to lose interest as a wrestling fan around that time. They were just doing too much for me. It lost a lot of its luster and what made me fall in love with it. When WCW was dying out, was almost dead by this time. I don't know, the business kind of sank according to me. I really didn't care anymore. And when shit like this was going on, when they brought out the American Badass Undertaker, I was like, oh my god, this shit is getting corny, and what the fuck am I watching? I did take a little break when Austin got run over. I think what was that, Survivor Series or some shit? When Austin got run over, I took a little break and I watched little bits and things here. I wasn't really watching. I wasn't invested at the time of the debut of the American Badass, but my friends told me about it and I saw. I was like, I'm not watching this shit anymore. So yeah, I didn't like it at all. But looking back, I mean, it was the right thing to do, to like change up the gimmick, keep the dead man fresh whenever he did come back. So, but at the time I hated it. Next up is from Undertaker. Some more Undertaker questions. So, he says, I'm a big Undertaker fan, so I want to know what's your favorite Undertaker gimmick. I also would like you to give us a brief talk about each character, so let's go through the list. The old classic Undertaker, 1990 to 1994. I just started watching like that Undertaker when I was doing the WrestleMania retro reviews, and it's gimmicky, it's cheesy, it's comic booky, it's cartoony. Just a guy that no sells, I mean, he's pretty much like a zombie, so it's not a character that could, last for a long time. So, if he was that type of Undertaker, he would have been able to make it in 2013, because that shit would have got old really fast. So I really don't care about that Undertaker. The Dead Man, Black and Purple, 1994 to 1996. That was the Undertaker I fell in love with. That's the Undertaker I dressed as during my for my Halloween costume. You know, with the little fucking black teardrop in the eye, the fucking gloves. I remember the WrestleMania, the arcade game. He'd shoot like fucking phantoms out of his gloves. That was an awesome Undertaker. The Lord of Darkness, 1997 to 1998. I love that Undertaker too. You know, I always think of the rivalry with him and Shawn and Brett. That whole rivalry. You know, that Undertaker was just badass. You know, just a loner, just fucking badass and dark with that attire. You know, the fucking the jet black hair all watered down. It was awesome. The Ministry of Darkness, I fucking love the Ministry of Darkness. You know, I mean, they created such good fucking segments, and man, just some controversial shit like Charles Manson type shit. Stuff that the Wyatt family should be doing is what the Ministry of Darkness did. That was a great fucking faction. The Biker Taker, I said this just before, wasn't crazy about it. Don't care about the biker gimmick, even though the theme song was pretty awesome. The Last Outlaw, 2004, is still not crazy about the gimmick. It's more that just the fact that it's the Undertaker, you know. I mean, because when he came back, I was expecting an old classic Undertaker, yet he still had the wife beater and, you know, aspects of the whole biker American Badass gimmick. The big evil type gimmick. So, you know, it's like a hybrid. I don't really care for it. My favorite would be either the Lord of Darkness or the Dead Man. I don't know which one. Those two are fucking awesome. So yeah, there you go. Next question is from Sangam Pun. What do you think is the worst booking decision ever in WrestleMania? I can give you some of the worst booking decisions. I'll give you 3, because I don't know what's the worst. Not having Rock and Hogan main event WrestleMania 18 is fucking retarded. Same with not having Michaels and Undertaker headline WrestleMania 25. And not just turning Stone Cold heel at WrestleMania 17. Because you know what? I mean, maybe that would have been a shocking thing, but the fact that they had him aligned with Mr. McMahon, the guy who he went against for the whole Attitude Era, was just the death toll for the Attitude Era. So those 3 are horrible booking decisions according to me. And another question from Sangam Pun. If you could induct any 4 to 5 legends on 2014 Hall of Fame, who would you induct? First up, definitely Macho Man with Miss Elizabeth. I would induct those 2. I would induct Jake the Snake. He's trying to get sober. I think he had a setback, but you know, it'd be a good thing to have him if he could get back on the wagon and be fucking sober. That'd be awesome. And induct him, because you know, he's just a perfect fucking mid-carder, you know, just a great mid-carder, you know, because not everybody could be a fucking legend, a fucking main event guy, and he totally just established his position on the mid-card. Who else? I would put Owen Hart, definitely. You know, I know there's a bunch of shit they with his wife doesn't want them to put him in the Hall of Fame, but yeah, I would definitely put Owen Hart if I had my way. And I'd also induct Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. You know, I was a huge fan of Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. He's also trying to be sober with DDP, so that'd be fucking, you know, good self-esteem boost for him if they would induct him in the Hall of Fame. So there you go, there's some people. Next up comes from Young Phenom Drake 17. Yo, Justin, which Batman movie do you prefer? Batman from 1989 with Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton, or The Dark Knight with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger? You know, Batman, the Tim Burton 1989 Batman is just something that is a relic of its time, you know. It's kind of just cemented in its own time period. It's not a movie that is timeless to me, you know. It looks very late 80s, early 90s, you know, the way, the environment, the costumes, the design. For me, The Dark Knight is just a great film. And it's not necessarily, you know, a great comic book film. It's just a great fucking film, you know. Batman is kind of gimmicky. The thing with Jack Nicholson is he's a great actor and everything, but he's one of those people that has that curse where he's just so unique and so noticeable that it's hard to suspend your disbelief and say, oh, this is the Joker, it's not Jack Nicholson. So that's why I take Heath Ledger Joker over Jack Nicholson. I think The Dark Knight is a much better movie. I mean, Batman 1989 is a good movie, but it's something that is good for its time. I think The Dark Knight is a fantastic movie. Next up, Savior Gambit. Who in the wrestling business world would you like to do an open Q&A with? The top guy, Vince McMahon. You know, I would like to ask him, you know, see where his mind is, you know, where the fuck he gets these ideas, these horrible ideas, and just do a really relentless, no holds barred Q&A with the guy and get down to it, like, why the fuck is the business so bad right now? And also another question, if you had to play a wrestler in a movie about their real life experience in and out of the wrestling world, who would you want to play? You know, my first wrestling idol as a child was Shawn Michaels, so that's the guy I'd want to play. My favorite wrestler of all time, the guy that got me into wrestling, you know, idol, my icon, you know, my wrestling hero back in the day. So yeah, definitely Shawn Michaels. There you go. Next question from Dark Filter 612. Favorite horror film? I would say Halloween. It's just one of those movies as a kid I fell in love with and just obsessed over and just watched over and over and over again. I was a Michael Myers fanatic. Had a bunch of masks. Yeah, I mean, that movie is great. The fact that it was done on such a low budget. It was shot in like 2-3 weeks. I mean, just a great fucking movie that, you know, wasn't some big budget Hollywood produced movie. I love the first Halloween, and also The Exorcist is another one. But I have more of a sentimental attachment to Halloween. So yeah, there you go. And last is from Adam Goulet. 3 questions. Are you looking forward to seeing Bray Wyatt on the main roster? Well, as I'm doing this video, he is already on the main roster, so yeah. You know, I had a lot of hype for the Wyatt family coming in, but quite frankly, they just don't seem to be anything great. I mean, they're just doing beatdowns and promos, you know. I've said this a couple times. They need to do something inventive, something different. I mean, their vignettes were so different and original, but their presentation on the show is anything but inventive and original. So, you know, I really want to see something different. I want to see some cult shit. I want to see them, like, you know, sacrifice people and brainwash them into their cult. Do some backstage out of their arena segments, you know, stuff like that. Next question. If Vince McMahon gave control over to you for 1 week, who are 3 guys that you would choose to push? I would choose to push Daniel Bryan. You know, they've been doing it, and I would keep on doing it because you know, my plan would be to give him the belt at SummerSlam like he deserves. Who else would I push? I'd push Damian Sandow, who desperately needs a fucking push. The Money in the Bank winner, who's fucking jobbing a Christian. I would definitely push Damian Sandow, make him look like he could be a future world heavyweight champion at least. And who else? I would push. Man, I don't know, Ziggler. You know, I would, cause him too. I mean, I would rework Ziggler because I don't know. He's just like, I don't want to be like one of those people whenever a heel guy turns face and say they suck, but he just, I don't know why every face these days has to just be a fucking goofball cornball. Like, I remember like The Rock, you know, when he was a face back in the day, Stone Cold when he was a face, Triple H, like, when they were faces, they still acted like badass characters. They didn't just become fucking goofball nerds. And that's like what Dolph Ziggler looks like now, you know, just his voice too. His voice is so feminine, and he just acts like a fucking nerd now that he's a face. So I'd revamp his style, and and he asks also, what changes would you make that week? I would stop making faces look like fucking cheesy fucking goofball nerds. They could still be badasses, just not fucking backstab people. That's the only difference between a face and a heel. They wouldn't have to do a bunch of this bad shady shit, but they could still act like tough guys, you know? And the last question, what Star Wars movie did you like the most and least? My favorite is Empire Strikes Back. Doesn't get better than that. One of those rare cases where the sequel is better than the original, you know? Empire was just so much more big, deeper, and so much more mature than the original Star Wars. Such a bigger scope and really made it, you know, into this whole universe thing. You know, Star Wars, the original A New Hope, was just a light, fun adventure movie. Empire Strikes Back was deep and dark and badass. won't ever see a Star Wars movie like that again. Definitely not. My least favorite is Phantom Menace. You know, a lot of people hate Attack of the Clones, but at least Attack of the Clones was relevant to the whole story, the whole, you know, saga. Phantom Menace, you could not watch that movie and nothing will be missed. Not one little bit of information will be missed. At least with Attack of the Clones, yeah, nobody likes the Padme-Anakin relationship, but you do need it to see where Episode 3 goes and, you know, the whole Skywalker story. It's not a great movie, or not a good movie at all, or anything like that, but Phantom Menace is such an irrelevant fucking movie. It's ridiculous. If you watch Red Letter Media, Mr. Plinkett, he does like a review on it. It's a hilarious fucking review and just talks about how meaningless and pointless that whole fucking movie is compared to the rest of the saga. So there you go. There's my Q&A. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, send questions, inbox me, or comment on this video, future questions, and I'll get to them. I am Jay Shady, the voice of reason. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.